on and hear yes. Check, 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 1, 2.
Still fits, you should be proud of a word on the two pieces for flute and piano having their first performance today, the prelude and postlude. I offered Chris Ryan a commission for some music for today, and he insisted it be a gift. I know giving is central to his life, so we came up with the title, Go Give, Lo, Live. And in keeping with the theme for this month, I want you to look upon your process of generosity as this piece speaks to me, open, candid, expansive, with no conflicts or conditions.
Good morning. Welcome everyone, and thanks for coming out today. And to those of you who chose to stay home in your jammies and watch the live stream, we welcome you too. This is First Unitarian Society, a community where curious seekers gather to explore spiritual, ethical, and social issues in an accepting and nurturing environment. Unitarian Universalism supports the freedom of conscience of each individual, as together we seek to be a force for good in the world. My name is Lori Cresswell, and on behalf of the congregation, I'd like to extend a special welcome to any newcomers or visitors here in the room or watching us on the live stream or listening to our radio broadcast. We are a welcoming congregation. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your life's journey, we celebrate your presence among us. Now would be a wonderful time to silence your cell phones as we join in together for a few moments of silence, for contemplation, prayer, or just for a few calming breaths as we become more fully present with one another.
Enter with me this place, the center, where we find not only our inmost selves, but also our connection to the farthest reaches of the universe. Here we confront and embrace our aspirations and our failings. Though we seek always for our lives to be full of goodness, sometimes we lack courage to right the injustices that confront us. And although we seek to be generous, sometimes our fears cause us to stop. And though we seek always to walk the high moral ground, sometimes we judge others quickly and harshly. And though we seek to understand the larger mysteries, sometimes doubt causes us to lose faith in our purpose. Here, in this sacred space, made sacred by our shared lives and our shared yearnings, may we find new courage, new generosity of spirit, forgiveness given and received, and rededication to the higher purposes of our lives. I invite us to rise in all the ways that we do as we spark our chalice light using the words of Maureen Killoran. Printed it in your order of service as together we say, "Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this chalice honor and embody the power and the blessing of the love we need, the love we give, the love we are challenged always to remember and to share."
We're going to add an ostinato to this familiar round, and it is the words of the last line that is left out of the hymnal. And Reverend Doug is going to sing it. You may sing this with him if you'd like, or you can sing what's printed. The words are, "Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times." And it goes like this. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 Let's sing the melody.
times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times,
ours is no caravan of despair.
Broken your vows
yet again, come. How about this half of the room?
1,000
Start.
Though you've broken your vows
whoever you are, you follow.
Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times,
one more time.
you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times.
Let's repeat that.
Though you've broken your vows
yet again,
1,000 times. While you're standing, I invite you to turn towards each other and offer a greeting. So, if you would like to come forward while we share a story, I invite you up. Hello there.
The young and young at heart are welcome.
Good morning,
to
good
come.
morning.
Oh, well, hello. Good morning.
So Karin and everybody, we are in the midst of a month where we explore what it means to be generous. Does anyone know what the word generous means? What does generous mean?
It's kind of hard to explain.
It is hard to
she
explain.
says.
Yeah. There's no right or
But she
wrong.
knows
What do you
what it
think?
means.
What do you think of when you think about generous people? What do they do? Yeah. They're kind to each other. Yeah. I think generous people tend to share what they have. What else?
They give stuff that they don't want to give to other people.
They give stuff that they don't want to other people. Yeah. What else do they do?
They be kind and really thankful.
Kind and thankful.
Kind and
Very good,
thankful.
yeah. And sometimes it's surprising where generosity, where kindness and goodness comes from. Like in the story that we're going to share today called Those Darn Squirrels.
Does anyone know this book already? Some, yeah, a couple of people have read it. It's a funny one, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
On the outskirts of town, at the edge of the forest, there was a little old house. The only thing older than the little house was the man who lived in it, Old Man Fookwire. Old Man Fookwire was so old that when he sneezed, dust came out. He was also a grump. He hated pie. He hated puppies. Who hates puppies? Oh my goodness. The only thing he liked was birds. All summer long, the old man painted pictures of the birds that visited his backyard. There were whirlybirds, there were bonga birds and baba birds and yaba birds. Even a rare flugel bird came by once and twice. Fookwire's paintings weren't very good, but the birds never said anything. When the air turned crisp and the leaves began to change color, the old man grew sad. He knew that soon the birds would fly south for the winter, as they did every year, and that he would be lonely. Then he had an idea. If he fed the birds, maybe they would stick around. So Old Man Fookwire built beautiful bird feeders and put them up all around his backyard, and he filled the feeders with delicious seeds and berries. And soon the birds came from all over the forest just to eat from the old man's yard. But the birds weren't the only ones who liked the bird feeders. The squirrels did too. Now, not too many people know this, but squirrels are the cleverest, it's hard to say, of woodland creatures. In fact, they are fuzzy little geniuses. They can make a house out of a tree, they can make a bed out of a bunch of leaves, and a box kite out of twigs, dirt, and squirrel spit. And they are excellent at math, as you can tell by the little squirrel abacus they have going there. Winter was fast approaching, and the squirrels needed to gather as much food as they could get ready. So they decided to take some of the bird food. And the birds were not happy. And neither was Old Man Fookwire. When he discovered what happened, he shook his old man fist and yelled, "Those darn squirrels!" Those darn squirrels. He filled the feeders again, but this time he hung them up on a clothesline, and he went back inside confident that the squirrels would no longer be able to get the seeds and the berries. But the squirrels were determined. They devised a plan, and this time they took all of the food from the bird feeders. I know, the birds were furious. Harumph! "Harumph, harumph," yelled a bonga bird. "Those darn squirrels," yelled Old Man Fookwire. "Yum," said the squirrels. Looks like they have been eating well.
They'll not eat anymore because their bellies are too
They seem pretty full, yes. Now it was old man Fookwire's turn to devise a plan. He went to the general store to get supplies. He bought lasers and clamps. He bought wires and springs. He bought all sorts of tools, and he built a veritable fortress around his bird feeders. And then he refilled them very carefully. Na, 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 taunted the flugel bird.
The squirrels stayed up all night working on their strategy. They drank cherry cola and ate salt and vinegar chips to help them stay awake. Finally, they had it, the perfect plan. They put on their tiny helmets and prepared to launch themselves into the air, over the fence, between the lasers, and onto the bird feeders. The first squirrel misfired and hit a tree. The second squirrel went too high and landed in a bucket. The third squirrel sailed clear over the house. The birds laughed and laughed. They each had one last delicious mouthful of seeds and berries from the old man's feeders. Then they flew south for the winter, just as they did every year, said the Fugelbord. Now, after the birds left, old man Fuchwire was lonely, just as he was every year. He fixed himself some cottage cheese and pepper, his favorite snack. But he was still lonely. When he looked out the window, the squirrels could tell that he wasn't happy. "Go away," shouted the old man. "I don't like you squirrels." The squirrels held a meeting deep inside a large tree. They decided to give the old man a present to make up for the seeds and berries they had taken. Now, not many people know this about squirrels, but they are not only fuzzy little geniuses, they also collect just about anything they find on the ground. These squirrels had a vast stockpile of spectacular junk to choose from. But what would Fuchwire really like? Bottle caps? No. Popsicle sticks? No. Postage stamps?
Maybe.
Finally, they had it, the perfect gift. The squirrels stacked all of their loose change on old man Fuchwire's doorstep. There were dimes and pennies. There were nickels and quarters. There were even a few tokens from Coco's arcade. It all added up to $47.36, plus a few rounds of skee ball. "Maybe you squirrels aren't so bad," Fuchwire said when he found the coins, "but I still like birds better." This gave the squirrels another idea. They raided their junk collection again and got to work. When old man Fuchwire woke up the next morning, he was amazed to see that the birds had returned. But wait! Those things weren't birds, they were squirrels in disguise. "Great googly moogly," said old man Fuchwire. "This will make quite a painting." He ran outside and took down the lasers and the wires and the spring-loaded trapeze. He turned all the bird feeders into squirrel feeders. Then he painted till his brush ran out of bristles. The squirrels were so overjoyed, they had a party inside old man Fuchwire's house. "Those darn squirrels," said Fuchwire, and shook his old man fist and smiled.
So the squirrels used their smarts and whatever they had to make Mr. Fuchwire's life better. So that's what we try to do here. We think about what gifts that we have and how we can share them. So as you go to your classes, I invite you to think about how you can be kind today and share what you have. And we'll sing Just as Long as I Have Breath, number 6, to sing you out as you move off to class. Have a wonderful morning. See you soon.
Let us rise in body or spirit. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. Please be seated.
This morning's reading comes from the Reverend Victoria Safford. Our desires and decisions may be boundless, but our needs, if we're honest, are really pretty basic. We need shelter and food and clothing. And beyond this, we need friendship. We need comrades in this struggle. We need art. We need a way to hear music often. We need noble work, paid or unpaid, in the home or out of it. We need, each of us, a calling. We need trees and grass and water fairly close by. We need religious grounding. Some of us need a mature and sustaining experience of God. Some need prayer. Some need glimpses of the transcendent, a sense of something larger than themselves. Some of us need ethical clarity. We need religious grounding. We need solitude. We need community. We find the sources of these things we need, and then we choose to sustain them, to nurture them, not by willpower, not by some sense of duty or obligation, but because we care passionately about them, and we find them central to our lives. Here ends the reading.
Martin Cornfield writes, "If we all do one random act of kindness daily, we might just set the world in the right direction." Rayla Matson writes this about her life. "My youngest child, who is autistic, has taught me so much, and yet there are times, like our morning bus routine, where her autism causes me anxiety. We have to wait for her bus for up to 20 minutes on a small strip of grass on a busy road. And I have to be very creative to keep her not only entertained, but out of the street. I wonder how many people we entertain each morning. One day last month, a white woman pulled over and ran over to us with a shopping bag. She said she sees us every morning and is so moved by my obvious love and adoration for my daughter that she felt compelled to do something kind for us. She noticed that I never had on a coat, and I often stand in the rain. She didn't know if the things would fit, she said, but the receipt was in the bag. She smiled and drove away. As I looked down at the bag, I had very mixed emotions. I have a winter coat, but my worn-out sweatshirt is comfortable and too bulky to fit under my coat. And I stand in the rain because umbrellas cause anxiety for my little one. Did she do this because I'm black? Did she feel I needed these items? I put my daughter on the bus, went inside, and found a note in the bag. She wrote that she had wanted to stop now for weeks, that she was a single mom who had struggled for years to raise her boys. She didn't know if I needed anything, but was drawn to me and my daughter. The note said to return the items and get what I wanted if I didn't want what was in the bag. My eyes filled with tears. Amid these racially tense times and political unrest and horrible acts of violence we see almost daily, she just needed to do something nice for someone. Seeing my daughter and me every day reminded her of the good this world has. I think she needed that connection. Although I have what I need for the winter, I'm still a struggling single mother of 3. I took the items to the store and exchanged them for items I'd been wanting. I sent out a blessing for her to the universe and held on to the notion that there are those who want to reach out to others, who believe that there is goodness in the world and want to find it. And I am grateful. As we continue this month to reflect on generosity, I am reminded why there are so many important reasons for us to explore this over the weeks. How it invites us to both the big picture and the deeply intimate at the same time. How it carries so much power in the thoughts and feelings that are evoked around generosity and the resources in our life. And that we need time and space to be able to hold all of these truths and think about how they speak to us. When I say that generosity brings us to a sort of heartfelt or heart-centered place, there are many things meant by that. I'm aware of how generosity seems to invite us to places of great power, of great connection, of deep thought and significant feelings. I'm aware how many of us at times feel paralyzed by anxiety and burdensome shame and alienation from hope because of our relationship with especially the financial realities in our lives. We need to be able to talk about all of the resources that we have to bear. But one of the reasons that it's important to talk about money, and not just when we are asking you for it, but whenever we are able, is because it is a powerful thing in our world. It is an asset for great possibility, and it is also a struggle for almost all of us at different times in so many ways. And those struggles and those giftedness bring us to a powerful, heartfelt region again and again. And it is important that we find the right way to navigate through that place within us. Because we do need together to speak words of healing and act for wholeness for ourselves, for those we love, for our world. In Unitarian Universalism, at its best, as people of faith, we have not been neutral on this matter. We understand how important it is for us to really think about the resources that we have and to find ways that transcend that sense of shamefulness and brokenness and worry to something stronger and older and wiser. What would this legacy, what would this heartfelt place tell us about our resources, especially money and generosity? Jacob Needleman wrote this in Money and the Meaning of Life. He writes, "What is most necessary for man and what is given to him in abundance are experiences, especially experiences of the forces within him. This is his most essential food, his most essential wealth. If man consciously receives all of this abundance, the universe will pour into him what is called life in Judaism, spirit in Christianity, light in Islam, power in Taoism." And so Needleman concludes, if I had to say what I think the role of money is in human life, I would say that one needs money to live and survive in the outer world, to fulfill one's obligations to the community and to nature. But above and beyond this, the role of money is to serve as an instrument for getting understanding. We come to the bottom of civilization if instead of understanding, we are going after information. Information, he writes, is the plastic version of understanding. Just as bank cards stand to gold, as easy and deadly credit stands to honest need, obligation and giving may give us powerful insights into what we need to know most about our life. So what if we took seriously Needleman's supposition that yes, of course, we need money and resources to live and to fulfill our obligations to the world, but what if it is also inviting us again and again to encounter understanding in a certain way? How might we best encounter that more wise and transcendent understanding of resources and their purpose? How might we really understand generosity as an invitation to deeper understanding? I think it asks us to move into the heart of generosity in a particular way. And there are many ways of describing it, but one that is very ancient and has been tested by time is a tradition called the examens. It comes from Ignatius of Loyola, who is the 15th, 16th co-founder of the Jesuits. And in his spiritual exercises, he writes about a certain way of considering one's day and opening oneself up to the holy. Basically, the Examines has 5 parts to it. To become aware of what he writes as God's presence. But we could translate it the way that Safford does, as an awareness of the sacred, of a sense of the deep connection, of the truth of that which transcends our individual lives and holds all things together, to sit within the presence of that larger understanding of holiness, and to think about the day, number 2, with a sense of gratitude. Even every tradition understands that the way to really see the world as it is to understand the gift that we are given in each and every moment and day. And number 3, he says, in that place of being open to the holy and understanding our life with gratitude, to be aware of what feelings begin to stir within us. And to choose a question or a feature of the day and to just sit with it. Not try to intellectually analyze it, but to let that experience or that question just do its work within us. And let that work call us forward into our day. So if religion asks us to understand our resources, money and time, in its proper place and context, to neither avoid it nor overrate its importance, what if we sat down with our checkbook or our money management software, looked at what we saw in terms of how we spend our money, and let it be a spiritual practice that speaks to us? Just sit with it and see if it seems in accord with our values. And not from a place of shame or judgment, where it does not seem in accord. What might it be asking of us now? The same is true with our calendar. If we looked at our calendar every day and just sat with it, with a sense of gratitude for the life that we have been given, and breathe into how we have spent our week, what might it tell us? How would it feel in terms of what we value most and how we spend our time? Again, not as something that is meant to be some external sense of judgment or shaming, but something that invites us to think more deeply, to move to the heart of what really matters in our life and see how our resources are either in service or feel out of sync with those deeper values. Over and over again, what would it be to sort of sit with ancient wisdom around how we think about our resources and how we understand them? There are at least 3 illusions that we struggle with in our lives over and over again, and they impact how we understand our resources. What if we let ourselves just be present to those thoughts and feelings and see what they ask of us? First of all, that we live in the illusion that we have a substantial self. That we often feel that it is what we do in life, what we have, that really justifies our worth. But the thing is, all of those things continue to change. Our jobs will change, our health will change, our material possessions will change. What we really are is something deeper and larger than that. How is that depth reflected in the way we use our resources? What would it be if we looked at the importance of our impermanence as part of how we understand our resources? We spend literally billions of dollars, at least $160 billion a year, on makeup and skincare and hair care and health clubs and diet supplements, not all of which is awful. But what if we accepted the fact that we are all finite, impermanent beings, that we are called in every moment to accept the gift of what life is offering to us now, as we age, as our bodies change, as our health waxes and wanes. What if that was a place that we could be comfortable with, and then from that place, see what it asks of us? And most of all, often our resources help us perpetuate the illusion that we have a separate self. Taoism suggests that the nature of the world is deep interconnection, and that extends to how we use our money and our time. And that often, when we are fearful in how we use those resources, we move into a place of isolation. But the path of generosity asks us over and over again to be vulnerable. Shame is often marked by experiences of excruciating vulnerability of a certain kind. And Dr. Brené Brown did a multi-year research project to see what made a difference in people who seemed to live wholeheartedly and courageously in their lives. And what she learned as key to the courage and the full life that they lived was that they did not expect to be comfortable with a sense of vulnerability, but they understood how necessary that vulnerability was to their humanity. Perhaps the pathway to the heart of generosity is to understand that it is our vulnerability that opens the conduit to deeper connection and to deeper truth. We must not waste our precious resources in trying to perpetuate falsehoods that separate us from our real and transcendent life, that hold us from the heart of what matters most. In this month, what would it be like to sit with an idea of what is my life asking of me now? What are my resources saying about what really matters? And do they feel like they have a sympathetic vibration with each other that is life-giving and sustainable? Ultimately, it is a generous mind, a heart and life that are our greatest defenses against the anxiety, isolation, and drift that we all fall prey to in our lives now and then. It is a powerful resource as we move into this time, as we prepare for this year when we have an important election, when we are surrounded by the flu and the coronavirus, that brings a sense of deep isolation and fear into our lives. What if we moved into something deeper and older? What if we let that sense of connection, our resilience, our still small voice help us find again and again the pathway forward into our lives? That is the work of this month. It is the place that calls us to the heart. May we find our pathway to it with great courage, but most of all, with love.
Each week we have the opportunity to participate in giving from the heart, giving with joy, giving with hope. And today our offering with our outreach partner is to the 350 Bail Fund. This fund prioritizes bailing out Black prisoners in the Dane County jail system and also seeks to end the unjust and antiquated prison and jail systems. We invite you into a moment of giving and receiving.
Will be
Thank you, Carlos and Marilyn and Melinda, for that beautiful music. And I understand that it's Carlos's 90th birthday today, so thank you for sharing with us on your birthday. So we appreciate the many gifts, the gifts of music, the gifts of money that was given in our offering today, and there were many gifts of time to make this service possible. So I want to acknowledge those people. You were greeted as you came in this morning by Claire Box and by Katie Beam and her family. Our ushers today, Liza Monroe, Dick Goldberg, and Brian Chanis. And learning for our sound system, a new volunteer, Matt Howard. So thank you, Matt, we really need that. Hospitality today, which means coffee, is being offered by Fred Bartman and Carrie Berkey. And I understand that Fred was also out shoveling the sidewalk this morning for us. So generosity in action, thank you. Our lay minister today is Ann Smiley. And unfortunately, we do not have a tour today. John Powell can't be here. A couple of opportunities to let you know about. I want to highlight the spaghetti dinner on February 22nd at 6:15 in the atrium out here to support the Madison Starlings, which is a branch of a national volleyball organization for middle school girls. And one of the many things that the Madison Starlings does is not exclude anyone because of financial hardship. So you can support a good cause and get a good dinner if you can make it. And now I would like to invite Dorrit Bergen. She has some special announcements.
Good morning. In 2017, we, members of First Unitarian Society, along with Congregation Shirei Shemayim, committed ourselves to an act of generosity by voting to be a host site as part of the Dane Sanctuary Coalition. We joined Orchard Ridge United Church of Christ, Madison Mennonite Church, and Madison Christian Community as one of 3 such sites. As some of you may know, Orchard Ridge United Church of Christ, Madison Mennonite churches hosted an immigrant family in their building last fall. This means that either MCC or FUS will be up next in the event that someone asks for sanctuary. We've learned that if the request comes, it is likely to be very urgent, and we will need to have volunteers ready to fill on-site shifts 24/7, probably in a matter of days. Although we will receive assistance from other coalition congregations, just as some of us volunteered last fall at ORUCC, we need to have a pool of at least 30 trained volunteers from FUS CSS ready to be scheduled for shifts very quickly. To that end, we will be holding 2 training opportunities, either February 27th or March 16th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in courtyard rooms A and B. Details on how to register are in the red floors. I'll be available after the service to answer any questions you may have. Please consider whether you are able to become part of our team that will stand ready to serve should we be asked. Thank you.
We join together each week, a community with minds that are open, hearts that are welcoming, and arms embracing. We lift up those whose lives are touched by sadness, by illness, by worry, or by loneliness, and pray they find comfort, hope, and healing in this community and the larger community. We celebrate those whose lives are whole and well, and our Cares of the Congregation book today mentions a happy birthday to Tim Corden. our social justice coordinator here. May they share their strength and with those in need and find warmth and love in the sharing of their spirit. And may we take a moment to silently reflect on our own lives and all those beloved within it that need our thoughts and healing prayers. May we always remember that we are a part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. May we be grateful for the miracle of life that we share and the hope that gives us the power to care, to remember, and to love. And with that in mind, we join to sing our final hymn this morning, number 201, Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I lay my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I laid my burden. Feel like shouting hallelujah, feel like shouting hallelujah, since I laid my burden down. Feel like shouting hallelujah, since I laid my burden. Life is sweeter, so much sweeter. Life is sweeter, so much sweeter, since I lay my burden down. Life is sweeter, so much sweeter, since I lay my burden. Feel like dancing, hallelujah. Feel like dancing, hallelujah, since I lay my burden down. Feel like dancing, hallelujah, since I laid my burden. Love is shining all around me. Love is shining all around me, since I lay my burden down. Love is shining all around me, since I lay my burden down.
And now, as we prepare to leave this place, may we indeed connect with whatever it is that liberating force in life that turns us towards the generous spirit and deep connection. For though we extinguish this chalice, we do not extinguish the ancient wisdom that tells us the story about those connections, that reminds us that when we act from the deeper part of who we are, there is great power. And most of all, calls us again and again to the warmth of love. These will remain in your lives until you gather in this place again. I invite you to take your seat and receive one more gift of generosity in music.
Generosity takes strange turns sometimes. 3 years ago, when I turned 87, my friend John Stevens offered to write a piece for me for piano right hand. And when I told him 87, he immediately thought 3 times 29. obviously, 29 triads. Triads, the basic blocking of Western music. So this piece is exactly 87 notes long. Contemplating it, I asked him if I could savor it by playing each triad single notes. So I was then giving him a gift back, and Marilyn will play my adaptation, and I will play his original version. Francium, look it up in your periodic table.